The Master Cycle Zero is great. It is a ton of fun to go blasting over Breath of the Wild's mountains and to go flying off of peaks. But it does have one problem: the fuel. The fuel runs out so fast that you can barely make it halfway across the map before it's all gone. It's really annoying when you are cruising along and all of a sudden you just stop moving. You then have to get off the bike, get fuel from your inventory, put the fuel into the Master Cycle, and then finally continue on. After having to fill up quite a few times, I wondered, what's actually the best fuel for the Master Cycle Zero? The Master Cycle can take almost any material in the game to use as its fuel. Different materials will fill up different amounts of fuel. When you hover over an item in your inventory while standing next to the bike, it displays this little meter right here, which shows you how much fuel the material will replenish. I went through every material I had in my inventory and made a chart of how much they fill up the fuel meter. After a little while, I had a spreadsheet of every item in my inventory. It might not be every item in the entire game, but it's close enough to where it doesn't really matter. Analyzing the data, I realized that there are a few different groups: good fuels, medium fuels, bad fuels, really bad fuels, and really, really bad fuels. When using one of the good fuels, they fill up half of your tank when you use 5 of them. So are the really good fuels the best? Well, not necessarily. You also have to take into account how difficult each of the fuels are to obtain. I decided to go through the really good fuels and figure out the best way to get each of them. Then I compared the speed that you could collect them. I decided to divide them into 2 different categories: items that are best obtained with glitches and items that you obtain normally. The item that you can collect most efficiently without glitches is the apple. You can go to a random forest and start grabbing them. Hey everyone, Editor Jopes here. I'd just like to point out that even though I managed to get almost 120 apples from the forest, this is pretty much the only forest like that, so you would have to wait for another blood moon before trying this again. If you are okay with using glitches, you can use this bug with a guardian that makes infinite guardian parts spew out. You go to one of these spots, pull the dead guardian loose using Cryonis, and push it to a spot far away using Magnesis and a Lionel weapon. Then it will start spewing out parts such as ancient gears, screws, and shafts. You can get so many guardian parts from this method that after doing it only once, you likely won't ever have to do it again. At this point, I couldn't think of any way to make the fuel better, but then I noticed something weird happening when I tried to use ancient cores as fuel. The amount of fuel that the cores gave was fluctuating in really weird ways. After a bit more testing, I discovered that all of the fuels that fill up 1/50th of a tank, also known as the really, really bad fuels, actually doubled the effectiveness of any other fuel that they are combined with. From now on, I am going to be referring to these fuels as boost fuels. This means that if you have an ancient core and an apple, instead of filling up 1/10th of a tank, the apple will fill up 1/5 of a tank. And the buffs stack, so if you have 2 ancient cores, then the apple will fill up 2/5 of a tank. This means that if you have 3 apples and 2 ancient cores, you can fill up an entire tank in one go. A major issue with this being a viable method is that ancient cores are expensive, but luckily we can just use one of the other boost fuels, right? I looked at the other boost fuels and found that the category was mostly made up of really expensive items, such as giant ancient cores and starbits, with the exception of one item: Monster Extract. Monster Extract is a cheap material that you get from Kilton, who's basically just a guy running a crypto scam behind Kakariko Village. You can trade in monster parts to get this currency called Mon, and then you use Mon to buy Monster Extract. You can buy up to 20 Monster Extract per night at Kilton's shop for fairly cheap. You might be thinking, isn't it a waste of time to have to grab 2 different materials? Luckily, even though the Monster Extract only gives 1/50th of the fuel you need, the insane 32 times multiplier that you get from using 5 of them is able to get you a full tank instantly. So now you can go zooming over Hyrule and never have to worry about fuel again.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, because I am a channel that is trying to grow and likes help get this video recommended to more people. I will try to make similar content to this in the future, and you will most likely only see my videos again if you are subscribed. Thank you, and have a nice day.